The morning my ranch was raided, the HOA president stood outside my gate wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Sheriff's deputies, county inspectors, and animal control trucks rolled onto my property as if they already believed I was guilty. But by sunset, the FBI uncovered one forgotten property record that changed everything. The same road they used to raid my ranch legally belonged to me. Quick question before we continue: what country are you watching H.O.A. Breakpoint from? Let me know in the comments. If you're enjoying these stories, take a second to subscribe. Help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. My name is Daniel Brooks, and my family has raised cattle on the same ranch for nearly 70 years. Long before expensive homes appeared on the hills nearby, my grandfather worked this land with nothing but a pickup truck, a few head of cattle, and a promise that the property would stay in our family. For decades, nobody questioned where our fences stood or who maintained the road leading to the ranch. That changed when a luxury subdivision called Silver Creek Estates was built beside us. Along with the new homes came a brand new HOA, complete with glossy newsletters, endless meetings, and a president who believed every inch of land around the neighborhood should answer to her. Her name was Rebecca Collins. The first letter arrived only 2 weeks after she became HOA president. According to her, my tractors were creating excessive dust. A week later, she complained that my cattle were visible from the subdivision entrance and claimed they reduced property values. Then came notices about my red barn, my equipment yard, the color of my fencing, and even the American flag flying over my workshop. Every letter ended the same way. Failure to comply may result in legal action. I laughed the first few times. My ranch wasn't part of Silver Creek Estates, and I had never signed a single HOA agreement. I tossed the letters into a drawer and went back to work. Rebecca didn't appreciate being ignored. Within months, county offices started receiving anonymous complaints about my ranch. One week it was alleged environmental violations. The next week someone claimed I was operating an illegal commercial business. Then came accusations of livestock neglect. Every inspection ended exactly the same. No violations, no fines, no problems. Still, the complaints kept coming. That's when I realized Rebecca wasn't trying to enforce rules. She was trying to make life miserable until I gave up. But what she didn't know was that an old metal filing cabinet inside my grandfather's workshop held documents nobody had looked at in decades, and those papers would eventually bring federal investigators to our gate. At first, I had no reason to dig through those dusty records. I simply assumed common sense would eventually win. After all, every inspection cleared my ranch, and every complaint fell apart under scrutiny. I was wrong. One Tuesday morning, just after sunrise, I heard engines coming up the road. Not one vehicle. Several. I stepped onto the porch and watched a convoy of sheriff's cruisers, county trucks, and animal control trailers heading directly toward my front gate. Standing behind them, recording everything on her phone, was Rebecca Collins. She looked happier than she'd ever been. One deputy approached and handed me a stack of paperwork. "We're here to conduct a coordinated inspection based on multiple reports," he said. I calmly accepted the documents. "You're welcome to inspect whatever the law allows," I replied. For nearly 4 hours they searched barns, examined livestock, checked feed storage, reviewed permits, and photographed equipment. Neighbors gathered along the fences, whispering as if they expected handcuffs to appear at any moment. Rebecca never stopped smiling. She walked around pointing toward my barns, occasionally whispering to one of the inspectors before stepping back to continue filming. She truly believed this was the day my ranch would be shut down forever. She had absolutely no idea that someone else on the scene had just noticed something far more important than my cattle, something that would soon draw the attention of the FBI. The inspections finally ended just after noon. The lead county inspector walked over to me, handed back my paperwork, and nodded. "Mr. Brooks, we didn't find any violations." I thanked him, expecting everyone to leave. Instead, I noticed a man wearing a jacket with a federal agency contractor badge standing near the entrance road. He wasn't looking at my barns or my cattle. He was staring at an old brass survey marker embedded in the ground beside the pavement. He called another official over. They measured a few distances, compared them with a digital map, and quietly exchanged puzzled looks. Rebecca didn't notice. She was too busy celebrating what she thought was my public humiliation. Before leaving, the federal contractor asked me a question no one had ever asked before. Who owns this road? I smiled. My grandfather always said it belonged to the ranch. That single sentence started a chain of events nobody saw coming. The next morning, I called our family attorney. Together, we unlocked an old metal filing cabinet that had sat untouched in my grandfather's workshop for decades. Inside were yellowed survey maps, handwritten maintenance records, and the original deed from the early 1950s. Buried beneath those papers was something even more important. An original recorded easement agreement. It showed that while the county had permission to improve the roadway decades ago, ownership of the land beneath it had never transferred. The subdivision had been built years later, using the road under assumptions that no one had questioned. Every homeowner, every delivery truck, every contractor, and even the officials who had entered my ranch during the raid had crossed land that legally belonged to my family. The road they used to raid me wasn't legally theirs. Our attorney immediately requested certified copies from the county archives. Every document matched. Then another surprise surfaced. Several property descriptions filed during the subdivision's development didn't match the original recorded surveys. Boundary lines had been altered on later documents, making it appear as though the roadway had become public property. If those records had been intentionally changed to secure permits and federal infrastructure funding, the matter was no longer just a local property dispute. It could be federal fraud. Within days, FBI investigators began requesting documents. Rebecca suddenly stopped posting on social media. The HOA board canceled meetings. Residents who had once believed every accusation against me started asking uncomfortable questions. Then investigators uncovered something no one expected. One signature authorizing the altered property description belonged to a developer who had died nearly 2 years before the document was supposedly signed. That discovery changed everything. The investigation expanded overnight. Former developers, surveyors, and county officials were interviewed. Digital records were compared with handwritten originals. Every version of the subdivision maps was examined. The deeper investigators looked, the worse it became. When the case finally reached court, the courtroom was packed. Residents from Silver Creek Estates filled nearly every seat. Rebecca sat quietly beside the HOA's attorneys, looking nothing like the confident woman who had stood outside my gate during the raid. Our surveyor presented maps dating back more than 70 years. The county's own historical records confirmed every boundary. Then an FBI investigator explained how the altered property descriptions had affected federally funded infrastructure approvals, making the false filings a federal matter rather than a simple land dispute. Finally, the judge asked one question. If the H.O.A. believed this road belonged to them, can anyone show the court the lawful transfer of ownership from the Brooks family? The courtroom fell silent. No one could, because it had never happened. The judge ruled that the land beneath the entrance road remained part of the Brooks Ranch. The disputed easement filings were declared invalid pending the outcome of the federal investigation, and the H.O.A. was ordered to stop making ownership claims immediately. Rebecca resigned as HOA president less than a week later. Several civil lawsuits followed, and federal investigators continued examining how the altered records had been approved in the first place. As for me, I never chained the road shut. I never blocked families from reaching their homes. Instead, I worked with the county and the residents to establish a lawful temporary access agreement while the legal issues were resolved. Some people asked why I didn't take revenge after everything that happened. The answer was simple. Justice had already done more than revenge ever could. The people who tried to use that road to destroy my ranch ended up discovering the truth because they drove across land they never actually owned. And every time I pass that old brass survey marker at the entrance, I'm reminded that sometimes the smallest piece of forgotten history is all it takes to expose the biggest lie.